Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of The Games We Love, a weekly video game podcast focused on fun discussion, industry news, and more. I'm one of your hosts, Aaron White, and here, thankfully, back with me this week is my co-host, Kevin Brackett.
Hello, everyone.
Good to have you. I'm glad that you were not having another terrible week, thankfully.
Yeah, I could. Thank goodness. Knock on wood. I'm not going to jinx it, but doing much better. Thank you.
Awesome. And then with us is our other co-host, Bradbury Sprinkles.
Oh, my goodness. Hello. Now you got to explain it.
No, I'm not explaining it. I'm not Bradbury Sprinkles. You need to tell us why you're Bradbury Sprinkles.
Oh, my goodness. Well, this was Kevin's doing from 2017, I think. Whenever the My Little Pony movie came out, he needed somebody to review it, and I forced him to go with me, and he'll never let me live it down that he got a little certificate and named me Bradbury Sprinkles that day. And I came up today when you told me you were excited about a new battling pony game that we may bring up at some point. But yeah, that's the origin of Bradbury Sprinkles. Thank you, Kevin.
On that day, Bradbury Sprinkles was born.
So I took my daughter back in the day to the screening of that one, and I'm just now imagining, the two of you rolling up like locked arms on this dude date to see My Little Pony movie.
If we go to a movie, it's locked arms. That's exactly right.
And I hope you're like skipping. It's just, I don't know. I've just got this problem. I mean, Brad does have a man bun right now.
Very true. We were probably the only people there without kids. It was It was I don't remember the exact feeling, but I can imagine it was awkward, but we had fun with it. It was a cute little movie, and you can check out the review on reviewstl.com.
Yeah, it's about a C-, right?
Don't check out their review, listeners. Check out my review because it's a great movie and they're crazy. But Bradbury Sprinkles is the best thing to ever come out of that movie, period.
I think new gamer tag, new Twitch tag.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Goodness.
Yes. That should be a thing. We vote 2-1. Change your Twitch name.
No. We'll put it up on the Discord for a vote, and I'll find a way to rig it.
Well, we're here to talk about games, and we have a great listener question to get started with. So we're still getting to know us as we're having these first few episodes, and I thought we would talk about whether or not we prefer digital or physical game purchases, and whether or not we have any interest in things like collector's editions of games. And so I'll throw it to you first, Bradbury. You're just going to get this whole episode. I'm probably not going to.
I can tell already.
I'm probably not going to fall off of it. But no, so, what is your kind of operating plan like when it comes to buying games?
I'm pretty picky. I try to be frugal about it because there's so many games out there. So I don't buy a lot of things at launch unless I'm really, really excited for it. And if I'm that excited for it, I usually do splurge on the collector's edition, depending on the property and how much I love it. A few of the ones that I have bought in the past was the Stonemason edition of the 2018 God of War. And I'm sad I missed out on The Witcher 3. That's one that goes for a lot of money right now. Part of it's the collector in me because I like things to go up in value, but I hardly ever sell anything, so it's mostly a collector's thing. But a lot of times I got to be really excited to buy the collector's edition. If I ever buy anything digitally, it's because it's on sale and just convenient. But I do like to have physical copies of things, but that's where I land with it. It's really just how I feel about the game and if I want it or not. Bad enough.
Awesome. So you're mostly physical then, I would say?
For the most part, again, yeah. If there's sales online, like there is on PlayStation right now, I might pick up a few things if it's cheap enough and I want to play it and I can fit it in my schedule. But it's mostly physical, yeah.
What about you, Kevin? Where do you lean?
Oh, I might catch some flack for this. I'm a bad gamer because I'm almost all digital, and I know that people hate it because you're just buying a license and you don't own it and you can't sell it and you can't trade it and blah, blah, blah and all that stuff. But I'll tell you why I do it. As a dad of a young almost teenager that likes to game, it's a great way to save money because if you buy a game under your primary account for, let's say, PlayStation or Steam, or I think you can do the same thing with Xbox, basically what can happen is since it's under my account, I can log into any console, whether it be PlayStation or Xbox, and I can play the game because I own it on my account, but I've got my son's system set up as the primary, which means that he can play it on the primary system, and we can play games at the same time online. It doesn't matter. So basically, instead of spending $120 or $140 for us to get a multiplayer game, I pay $60 or $70. So it's a huge savings. So yeah, I can't sell the game, but I'm actually saving half price when I buy it. And then I don't have to go hunting for discs. I don't have to, even walk up to my system and take a disc out and go put it back and risk it getting scratched and all that stuff. So I think there's a lot of advantages to digital as far as convenience, but also it's a price thing. So if the listeners aren't aware of that, if they have kids or if they have brothers or friends even, they can do the same thing. They can set up one console as primary and buy the games on a different account and kind of share games that way to offload the cost a little bit. And it's been really, really good for us to play all those games together. And that's pretty much it. Now, as far as collector's editions, I will buy those from time to time only if I really, really love the game or the series. So for instance, Dead Cells, I sent a picture on the Discord. I got the big Dead Cells collector's tin. I haven't even opened it yet. Like, it's one of those things where I bought the game on every single system, so like I'm not in a huge rush, but it does have keychains and an actual vinyl record and a statue of the main character and stuff like that kind of thing. So it is neat. I do like to collect it for games that I absolutely love, but I won't generally pre-order like a $250 version of Tiny Tina's Wonderlands just to play the game. Like, unless I absolutely adore the game.
Yeah, that's kind of my struggle with collector's editions, and I can't think of a single one that I have ever bought, and I may have at some point in my life, but the problem I have with them is you almost always, Dead Cells being a completely random one-off of this, what I'm about to say, but it's almost always at the beginning of the game's life. So it's before you play the game. And if you wait, they're gone because they're scooped up by all the people who buy them preemptively. Like you said, Brad, you wanted, what was it, the God of War one? Or no, the Witcher 3 one. Yep. But by the time you knew that The Witcher 3 was one of your favorite all-time games, there's no collector's editions left to grab, right? Unless you find one at a local retro store or something, and then the cost is just insane.
Yep.
And so that's part of why I've never gotten into it, is largely because I just don't want to make the purchase and then have it go bad. Like Tiny Tina's Wonderland was for a great example, actually, that you brought that up, because it was one of my most anticipated games of this year, and I dropped immediately like $100, whatever it costs for those stupid games with all their DLC and season passes. It was over 100. I think it was like almost like 120. I pre-ordered the game, right? And then I didn't really dig it, and I've played it like 3 hours, one session, and had zero desire to go back to it. And it just feels, and if I'd done that, even more money on a physical edition, I would just be, I guess then I could recoup it though, somewhat. But yeah, that's kind of my angle on it. I don't know, Brad, how does that work for you? Because you're the one that buys them more than anybody here in the room, at least.
It's really just how I feel about the game. Like the New Horizon game was one that I probably would have in the past gotten it, but it's really just my interest level. I thought the elephant, what do you call it, robot, was way too big, and it wasn't something I was that interested in. But I would like to have it, but again, I don't even have space for it right now. So it's a lot of different factors go into my decision to get it. But things like, if I could go back, I would have done The Witcher 3 immediately, because you can't find that for less than $2,000 right now. Or the original Last of Us post-pandemic edition, I think, is like $3,000. If a good version or good version of it, brand new, sells for quite a bit of money, because you don't know what's going to blow up and be that good.
For the listeners, and maybe you already know this or you function this way, but if it's a franchise that you love, and for example, if you love The Last of Us and The Last of Us 2 comes out and they've got that Ellie backpack thing, and you know that you love The Last of Us and you're probably going to love the game, just pre-order the thing, because by the time you want it, it's going to be $700 on eBay instead of $250. So I would say get it. Like you said with The Witcher, I mean, look how crazy that went up in value. So that's the only way I could justify it, is if it's something that I'm 99% certain I'm going to love and want. I don't want to regret not having it, or I wouldn't pay an exorbitant amount, so I would be stuck without it. But other than that, sometimes the collector's editions you can actually pick up on a bargain, especially if the game doesn't sell that well. I So I love Cyberpunk. And that game had its problems that it had, but I absolutely loved it. I bought it on PC and played through it, so I didn't have any bugs or anything and loved it. But then the Xbox and the PlayStation collector's editions started selling really cheap because nobody wanted the game and they didn't want to buy the real expensive ones. So I actually picked up the collector's edition of that on a discounted price, and that came with a statue and a steel book and an art book and all that stuff. And so I paid half price. And so you can get lucky. Sometimes they don't sell as well. SpongeBob, there's that SpongeBob Bikini Bottom, like the last big game that came out. I got an Xbox version of that on Amazon for 65% off, I think. And it came with a really cool SpongeBob statue and some other collectible things. Like, I'll just pick up collector's editions on discount because it's like cheaper than buying a statue by itself. And you get a game and some SpongeBob socks and a spatula or something. It's just, they give you some fun things.
A spatula. Yeah.
I know, right?
Sorry. Well, that's cool. But with the digital physical, just so you know, Kevin, you're not alone. I am the bad gamer too. I will say I have, with no current spouse and kids that are pretty much grown, I am able to spend more money right now on disposable things like video games than maybe a lot of people do. And that's part of why I can be all digital. And, I hunt sales, absolutely. Current PlayStation sale, for example, is popping off, and it's got just hundreds of games that are worth owning and playing. And I own quite a few of them. Found out about that by accident. In fact, I went to buy Final Fantasy 14 and I was all hyped about it. And then I was like, why won't this let me buy it? And to find out I did buy it like 2 years ago. And it was cheaper than it is on sale now. Yeah.
You're like me when
embarrassed
it comes to digital libraries. I don't even get me started on Steam. Sometimes I'll see those crazy those Steam sales or bundles or whatever, and I'll buy them. Like, especially, if you don't know about Humble Bundle, it's great. The money goes to charity. You can decide what split goes to the developers and the charities and all that. And you can get 10 or 15 games for $12 or more if you choose to donate more. Sometimes I'll be like, oh, this is great. And then I own half of them already because I've already, acquired them like you have. And so, I'm really bad at that too.
Yeah, I buy them across all different consoles. I've gone back and forth about who my main console is so many times, and it just doesn't really matter. I play them all. I honestly will buy things where they're cheapest, and then I will double buy a lot of games as well, just like you do, Kevin, just because of convenience. It's part of why I love digital libraries is convenience. I don't want to get up and change a disc. I almost actually purchased Link's Awakening Remake the other day. I had it in my Amazon cart, and then I kind of paused for a second. I was like, wait, what am I? And I got up and I went and opened a cabinet, and sure enough, it's the one Nintendo Switch game that I still physically own. I was like, I know I played this. Why can't I download it from the store? And I was ready to buy it again, and on a digital version of it, but I have it right there. All I had to do was go literally put the cartridge in, but I'm so lazy that I would, in many cases, I'll just rebuy it and go sell the physical edition back. And I used to do that a lot. I'd buy the physical, sell it back to GameStop. Now I'm all digital. But it sounds like, we have a varied way of doing it, and that's awesome because it really is all about personal preference. Well, let's go and talk about actual games themselves for a while. So, Kevin, I want to start with you because you did not get to join us last week, and we were all excited. We all played the same game, and we were going to talk about it, and sadly, you weren't able to join us to give us your thoughts, and kind of, maybe you can break a tie, honestly, when it comes to Tunic. Brad and I had this great discussion back and forth, had a little bit of a different experience with that game, so maybe you could start there and tell us what you think about it, and then, what else have you been playing, man?
Sure. Well, it was sad not being there last week, but I did enjoy your discussion. I thought you guys did a great review of Tunic, and you shared a lot of my thoughts. So I don't want to go through and say all the same things again. What I will say is the pros, I really enjoyed the art style. I loved it. I'm a huge Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past fan, so I love that you guys were shouting out the similarities and the play style of that game. I absolutely love the cute animation of the fox and everything. It's a really cute looking game and a fun game to play. The bad side of it is that I think it's too hard. It's just really a difficult game. I think it's so difficult that it goes beyond challenging to where it's like break your controller in half difficult, where there needs to be difficult levels maybe that you can change, not like cheats or just turning invincibility on. But I think the game's too hard and it makes it frustrating to play. I spent about 6 hours playing the game. Well, first of all, like you guys talked about, kind of a funny story, but I spent 6 hours playing the game. I said, this game is way too hard. I even messaged Aaron. I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know if I can keep playing this game. Well, it wasn't until 6 hours in, because there's no instructions. You have to piece together the instructions and they're in a different language, and that's part of the challenge, which is fine as a puzzle. I didn't know you could upgrade anything. So I played 6 hours on level 1 stats of everything. So I'm impressed that I got as far as I did at level 1. And then, so I got to the first boss, or whatever, one of the first bosses. I don't know if you can play them out of order, but I got all the way there on level 1. And then I go, okay, well, I feel dumb, but I finally pieced together the instructions that said, oh, you can go to the fountain and upgrade stuff. So I got stuff to like level 4 and level 3, and I was upgrading. Got to the boss, still could not do it. I tried over and over and over, to the point where I'm like, well, this just isn't fun. I'll never beat this. Like, I don't think it was a Metroid situation where it's like, oh, if I just give it one more try. I was knocking the boss's health bar 1/3 down and dying. It was, I mean, there's no way. And I want to continue the game for the story and find more instructions and play against more bosses and stuff. But if I can't get past the first boss and I quit, I don't know. That's not fun to me. So I think the game is too hard. I tried to beat the boss with turning the unlimited stamina on, like you guys said. I was like, okay, cool. They're giving me permission to kind of do that, because I hate doing that in games, but it's in the menu, right? It's not a cheat code. It's an option. So I tried it, couldn't get past it. So I turned on the invincibility and just beat that boss, because I was like, here's one of two things is going to happen. I'm going to quit this and never play it again because it's not fun. It was fun, but it's not anymore. Or I'm going to try to get past this boss and play more of the game. But that would be my big recommendation, is have some kind of difficulty level. And I don't think it's just because, like, I mean, yeah, sure, you can say get good or whatever, but like, I don't think it's because I'm not that good of a gamer. And I've played like Souls games and I know how to parry and roll and all that stuff. I don't think it's necessarily my skill. I think the game is just too hard and the mechanics don't work right. Like, when I would press A to roll when they would attack, like, I could not time it. I don't think the mechanics are good enough to where I could hone in on pressing the button and timing it right. It just didn't work. And so I was getting frustrated and decided that the only way to continue on in the game is to put some of those menu help things on.
So did you end up going on forward then? Because it sounds like you have the same experience I did, maybe even worse with regards to the bosses. But I agree with you 100%. And if you guys haven't listened to our episode from last week, by all means, go back and check that one out. And you'll get a lot of Brad's positive thoughts on the game there. I'm more in the middle. But I do agree. I just think that it's so difficult with the mechanics not being tight enough to match the difficulty of the way that the bosses are knocking you down. You know, you need a Souls-like level of game development and polish in those mechanics to make you have the feeling like you can succeed and it is your fault, and not one of the weirdest things in this game is the roll, the roll and sprint. I've never experienced a game where you roll and you hold down the button as you're ending a roll, and that's how you take off in a sprint. It is mind-boggling bonkers. It took me so long, and I never quite got used to it. And sprinting out of danger and rolling out of it, those are very important concepts in difficult games, right? And I could not get that mechanic down. It just never felt quite good to me. So I don't know. I feel justified. I feel good to know that I'm not alone. And Brad is better than us.
No. The most frustrating part of the game was the bosses and the combat, for sure. What I found the most appealing and the thing that excited me most about the game was the exploration and the discovery of things, like putting together the instruction manual and then learning like the things that were there the whole time that we didn't know, or the things that were behind corners, and just mechanics from the game that I didn't realize were part of the game until hours in. The not holding your hand and just kind of giving you a little push in the right direction, and those kind of things is what really made me appreciate the game. But yeah, you guys are not wrong about the combat and the boss fights. It was very struggling at times. I texted Aaron a couple times like, this is going to be like, I don't know that if I can continue.
And you guys even said like you ended up turning on the stamina thing. So it's not like, oh, well, I'm just bad at the game and you guys flew through it. Like you even had to have help. The game is too difficult to play without help. And I know that it's in the menu like that, but I don't think you should have to go in the menu and start turning on stamina and invincibility things. Like, make the game challenging enough so you can actually beat it without help like that. I do want to say the positives again: the art style, the fun piecing things together, the combat. Once I got used to it against normal enemies, I got the hang of it. I thought it's really fun. The weapons. There's a lot to like about the game, and I want to go on and learn all that stuff, which is why I decided to go against I hate to, when I played a game the first time, I hate to what I call cheat. I hate to have any kind of assistance, but I liked the game enough to where I kind of want to go through and learn the story and these things. So it's the only way I could do it. And I hope that at some point they balance the difficulty a little bit and fine tune the mechanics, because I think there's a really neat game here. And I just wish that I could have played it a little bit more organically and beat it, without that help. And so I may try it again.
You might have to wait till Tunic 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Oh my goodness.
You call me Bradbury Sprinkles, I'm going to make silly jokes.
Oh, gosh.
Hey, that's fine. That's totally fine. Well, anything else you've been up to, Kevin? Do you got time to play other stuff, or you just banging your head against the wall with Tunic?
No, I've been playing a bunch of little stuff here and there, actually. Part of the reason is because I got a Steam Deck, and it's really cool.
Oh, the first of us. There we go.
Wow.
Congrats.
I didn't know you had one.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, I just picked it up yesterday, actually. It's super cool. The Steam Deck is amazing, an amazing little piece of hardware. I got the 512 gigabyte, like the 599 one. It is the best, hands down, the best portable system I've ever played in my life. Imagine if a Nintendo Switch had like awesome games that looked high def and played in 60 frames a second and was comfortable to hold. And that is what the Steam Deck is. It's amazing. It's what you wish the Switch could be. You wish the Switch could be a beefy hardware, 60 frames per second machine. And it's so comfortable to hold. I can't believe it. Like, I thought, okay, I'm going to use this, maybe sometimes portable, and then most of the time I'll hook it up to a TV just so I can bring it between rooms or whatever. But no, I mean, I love the way this thing is in handheld mode, and could not believe how good the games played on it. Like, it really, they've optimized the hardware, and there's a list of like, I don't know if it's 100 and something games. There's a huge library there. The games are actually optimized for the Steam Deck. And so one of the games that I picked up was this game called Enslaved Odyssey to the West. And I posted about it in the Discord. I had never heard of this game before, but I was looking up stuff about Alex Garland because his new film Men is out. I haven't seen it yet, but I know Brad could talk a little bit about it, but I was looking up some Alex Garland stuff and could not believe that I found a video game he co-wrote. And it's a really neat adventure game. I think that you guys would really dig it, not only because of the writing, and I haven't gotten that far into the story, but the mechanics, the gameplay is a lot like an Uncharted game or a Tomb Raider game. It's that type of an action game where there's puzzles to solve, and it's really neat because you have a partner. It's weird. It's like a futuristic, but also a game that kind of takes place in the past. So it's this weird, I really don't know too much about the story yet, but you start off the game in this spaceship and you're climbing all around and the spaceship's destructing around you. So it's kind of like QuickTime events, but you're trying to escape while this ship is crashing. But you're this main character that goes by the nickname of Monkey because he climbs all around and he's really big, strong looking, almost looks like a wrestler. He's this huge, bulky guy, and he ends up finding this woman who becomes your partner in the game, and she knows all the tech, and you are the brawn, and you work together in kind of I'm trying to think of another game that's similar, but It Takes Two is the most recent game I've played where you have to work together as a team to actually do, like, to solve puzzles. But think of like Resident Evil or any other game where there's like another person that can boost you up, or you actually can pick up the woman and throw her to like up to an area that's up top, and she can drop a ladder down for you. It's one of those games where you don't actually control the other character, but you end up placing her somewhere, or you tell her to go put a distraction up, or to come to you, or to run somewhere else. And so you kind of like point her to what to do while you're distracting enemies or fighting enemies. So anyway, it's a really, really fun game, and I'm digging it. And I played it only on the Steam Deck, and it runs in like on handheld mode. It looks super high def. It's 60 frames a second, really smooth, and I'm loving the experience of the game and the Steam Deck.
Did you try Rogue Legacy 2 on it? Is that compatible yet?
Rogue Legacy 2 is compatible. I've downloaded it. I have not played it on there yet, but I can only imagine that if this game, which is like imagine Uncharted or Tomb Raider, it's a 3D type of game like that, third person with all these things going on. I imagine a game like Rogue Legacy, a 2D type of game, would run amazing on it. So I am excited to check that out.
Screen size comparison to the Switch. I don't know if you have an OLED or an old school Switch, but like, how would you say the screen size compares?
I have an old school, but I think it's around the size of the OLED, so it's a little bit bigger than a traditional Switch. But the quality of it, I've seen an OLED in the store. I haven't actually, because I don't own one, but the screen is really bright. I mean, on the model I got, I think it has the anti-reflective or whatever. They upgraded the screen a little bit on the higher end Steam Deck, but it's really clear, really bright. It looks amazing. I'm, again, for a portable system, I'm really impressed with the fidelity of the screen on it, and the anti-reflective one is really nice. I think if you get the base model, you don't get the anti-reflective. So I do think that with all you get, there's the anti-reflective screen, there's the higher end memory, so it's 512 of, it's like a solid state. The type of memory it is an upgraded, not only a capacity, but it's a much faster memory. So you get a performance boost with that. You get a carrying case included with it. So if you can pre-order it, I know they're not available for a long time, but if you're a gamer that especially travels a lot, or you think you're going to use it portable, I recommend doing the upgrades just so you can get the better screen and the faster memory for the performance, because I'm really, really impressed with it. Again, I did not expect to love it as much as I do, and I think I'm going to end up using this little thing a lot. And I'm not usually a portable gamer, but I thought, oh, this thing's kind of big, and I hate holding a Switch in portable mode or handheld mode. I cannot stand. I don't think it's comfortable. It's awkward, but it actually, for all the performance and the screen size and everything, the Steam Deck is incredibly light. It doesn't feel like you're like struggling to hold it up, or it's not awkward. The way that it's shaped with your hands and everything, it's really comfortable.
Does it have a mouse pad? I feel like I saw like a little thumb track pad or something on there.
Yeah, both sides actually. It's a touch screen, so you can actually use the touch screen as a mouse, but it has a D-pad, it has two analog sticks, it has two trackpad sensors, so there's one for your left hand and your right hand that are underneath the analog sticks. There's your regular bumper and shoulder buttons, but then on the back, like the back middle of the system, there's two more sets, almost like an Xbox Elite controller with the paddles on the back. There's those built into it. There are so many different buttons built into this thing, but it doesn't weigh it down. It doesn't feel awkward. I'm really impressed with, I think this is the ultimate handheld. I've never seen anything like it. And I know the thing has been so hyped up, but I'm telling you right now, just from the day and a half of playing with it, it is every bit as good as they say it is.
Awesome.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I had one pre-ordered, and I had the top edition, whatever the fancy one was, and I was Q1. So I ordered one right when it got announced, or reserved my spot in line, and ended up canceling it, I want to say this spring, simply because I realized it's just not something I would use. I get really excited about any new gaming tech. It is a little bit intriguing for me to hear you say that you're not typically a handheld gamer, but it kind of won you over. I just don't think that's me. I don't think I have a life that calls for it, whereas you have like a wife and a couple kids, and so sometimes you probably could find a good time to sit down and actually be able to put that in your lap while they're using a television, and I'm literally on my own, so I always have multiple televisions at my disposal. Always.
Sure.
And it just never am I going to choose a handheld over that. So I ended up balking on it for that reason, but man, it does sound just so super sweet. It's tempting.
It's one of those things. I'm kind of like you in the same regard. I have a Switch, but I don't use it as often as I should, even for the first party exclusives. I like the idea of mobile, taking it places, and like if I go on a trip or if I'm on the plane or something, but I haven't flown a lot in the last 2 years because of everything, but I don't see myself needing one in my situation right now. I'm sure I would get it and I'd play it for a while, but I'd probably just migrate back to the PlayStation. The interest is there, and maybe in the future when they're more readily available. Obviously, I'm not going to get one for a while, being the shortage and everything, but it's not something I'm dying for. So
Understandable. Well, have you been up to playing anything, Brad, this past week?
Not a whole lot that I've really dove into. After your glowing review of Ayuden Chronicle Rising, I decided to pick that up. I have about 8 hours into that right now and having fun with it. It's something I'm kind of turning into mindlessly playing. When it gets to the story bits, like the main missions or whatever, I pay attention, but I've been kind of skipping through a lot of the side quests and stuff when I'm turning stuff in, but maybe have like a TV show on or something and just mindlessly run it. Because like you said last week, you're running to the same dungeons over and over again to pick up something different and all that stuff. So while I am having fun with it, I'm already kind of tired of it, but my mentality when it comes to games is, well, I got to get through it. I got to finish it. Maybe 100% it when we get at the end. We'll see where we're at. But I enjoy the art style. I enjoy, there's some funny moments in it. I messaged you in the middle of it, like, this just cracked me up, this moment here. And there's been a few of them here and there that really got me. But that's what I've been focusing on, a couple hours at a time. I don't see myself putting 24 hours into it, but we'll see where we're at achievement wise when we get there. I tried another couple rounds of Returnal. I still enjoy it. I think it's a beautiful game. It just plays great, but I really need to settle down and take my time with it, because that first boss I always make a mistake that just wipes the whole thing, and it really gets me down, and I don't want to go back to it because I have to run through the whole first section again and build everything up and hope that I can get him this time, and then I'll make some little mistake and get frustrated and just go play Tetris or something. So, but other than that, I wanted to talk about a game that I really liked as a kid. It doesn't hold up so well today, I guess, with the writing, but it's still fascinating to me because I enjoyed it so much when I was younger. It was an early 90s game called Companions of Xanth. I've been playing it a little bit on a free website. I don't remember the name of it at the moment, but it used to be on GOG, and I'm surprised that it's not there yet, or because other games from Legend Entertainment are, and I would love to throw a few bucks at it and play it on an official application, but it's called Companions of Xanth. It's based on a novel by Piers Anthony, who wrote several, I think dozens of books in this world he created called Xanth, with it really heavily focuses on puns and fantastical creatures like centaurs and nagas and all this thing. And your main companion in this game is a naga lizard woman, I guess, in the form of a woman. But it came out at a time in which text-based adventures exist, like King's Quest, where you had to type in commands like put this or look around or take this. And what they did was they had this, like, it's a graphic adventure where they gave you a side column of abilities like take, look, talk, all that stuff. So you get to pick what you do and then click on the screen who you want to interact with, what you want to take. And it's a fun little adventure about this guy who doesn't believe in magic, and his girlfriend breaks up with him at the very beginning of the game, and there's some really campy dialogue and everything. The dialogue's not that great, and some of it doesn't really hold up either. The bet that the whole game is centered on is kind of a misogynistic bet between two friends that was like, this is not great. But as far as the world of Xanth, you enter this computer game, you physically enter it, and because you don't believe in magic, you're floating around as a computer screen until you actually do. And you go through all these different areas. You got to figure out these puzzles and get through these puns at times. Like there's, like, later on in the game, there's a window pane, and the way to get through it is to give it some pills, because window pane, goofy things like that. But I picked that back up, put a couple hours into it over the weekend, and it, brought back a lot of memories. It's one of the first, like, fantasy adventure games aside from King's Quest and Legend of Kyrandia.
Laser Suit Larry.
That's a different kind of fantasy, sir. But yeah, that same era though, 90s Sierra, and those adventure games like that. And there are ways to play it online. It's interesting. They have Legend Entertainment also has another game called Eric the Unready, which I have on GOG. It has the same kind of setup with the text-based and adventure game, whatever, that with an actual screen, actual graphics that you can venture through. And then Superhero League of Hoboken, I think, is the other name. But I found Companions of Xanth to be a lot of fun as a kid. I'm enjoying it now mostly out of nostalgia. But, being the Games We Love podcast, I wanted to talk about something that I grew up on and I really loved as a kid. And that's what I've kind of been dabbling in a little bit.
It's really cool. I have heard of it, and I had no idea what it was. When you started talking about it, for some reason, I was getting it confused in my head with something more recent, I would say mid 2000s, and set in a D&D world. There was like a Companions of something, Norgoth or something similar to that word that had caught my attention. But yeah, that's wild. I was just Googling it while you were talking, and I don't remember anything about this. I mean, this is like old school Ready Player One stuff right here.
It's one of the first games too, if what I read is accurate, that incorporated, if you guys remember Myst, you saw like actual people's faces in the graphics or whatever with the red book and the blue book and things like that, where it was one of the, in that era when they first started putting people into video games, like actual people, not animated people, but like tried to incorporate them in there. So there's moments of that game.
So like Mortal Kombat does, where they filmed real people but turned them into...
Yeah, but it doesn't look as good. Like Mortal Kombat came out, I think, a little ways after, where the technology was better. So it's off-putting, but it was, at the time, it was like, whoa, those are people, like actual people in this cartoon world or whatever. And it's fun. Again, the nostalgia is what holds it for me. They give you the illusion of choice, which is always a topic of discussion in like the Telltale games and stuff. That always push you in the right direction, but the choices are basically made for you. You just got to pick the right one. Like there's 4 characters to choose from as your companion at the beginning, but there's only one right answer. And then things happen throughout the game. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. If you're ever bored and want to check it out, there's actually YouTube videos of entire playthroughs if you're interested in it. If you're not interested in playing a game like that because you don't have the nostalgia and it's just too dated for you, you could watch somebody else and see the kind of gameplay it is and the goofiness that comes with it.
Yeah, I'm looking at a picture right now and it says censorship. So like the pun that you were talking about.
One of the first big things you have to do in the game is douse the smoke on those ships, because it's censoring the people. Like there's a guy out, like a lumberjack outside this little town, and he can't cuss because the censorship is out there, so you got to find all the ingredients you have to find all the ingredients to go onto the ship and douse those pillars of smoke so that people can talk regularly again or whatever. It's not a filthy game by any means. Everything's bleeped anyway, but it's those kind of goofy puns that the game includes, and it makes it entertaining.
Sounds fun.
That sounds awesome. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, that sounds great. It's a question. If you watch a full playthrough of a game on YouTube, can you log it and consider yourself having played said game?
No, Aaron, stop getting ideas. If you did not play it,
my friends totally shot me down, but I tried so hard. I was like, come on. Like, I mean,
was this your backup plan for Metroid Dread if you never beat it?
Right. I watched someone beat the boss.
Okay. Well,
I think if you're interested in a game and you don't have the time to play it or whatever, like it's fine to watch it, but I would never say that I logged that game as a game that I beat.
Aaron's trying everything to expand his gameplay.
He's trying to get my numbers up, man. I don't know. Well, speaking of getting my numbers up, I did get my numbers up by finally being the last of us to play Turnip Boy based on Kevin's early on recommendation. So I went through the whole game in a night. Like you said, it was less than 3 hours for me to get through it. And I basically had 100%ed it. I was a little frustrating because Brad had gotten this 1,000 gamer score and showed it to me, and yet I was finding glitches that were not allowing me to complete achievement. Don't dance just because you use a different platform. It's not like you did anything. But he played it on Game Pass PC, and come to find out, there are a couple of achievements that are glitched. And so one of them is very simple, and it was just like hit a bomb. It was just like punch it, right? So simple to do. The other one is related to the end game. It's funny to say that this 2-hour game has an end game mode, but it does. And you have to wait for something to randomly spawn. Now, I did it 3 different times, and it did spawn, or I got it to spawn 3 times in various runs. So it's not that rare and it won't be that hard to fix. And they are working on it. They put out tweets. Snoozy Kazoo is the name of the developer.
Right.
And they have said that they know what's wrong and they're working on it. But there's like this whole kind of complicated pipeline of getting a patch through to Xbox. I think there might even be a cost associated to it. And so eventually it'll get patched and I will go back and knock those 2 quick things out and be done and have my 1,000%, or 100,000 gamer score. But I loved it. It was fun. It was really cute. And I did have a lot of glitches. Like, it is not a polished. It is definitely what I think of as a Game Pass game, or what I remember so many of the old Xbox Live Arcade games being. It just doesn't feel done. Like, it feels indie to me in the way that we have been spoiled by modern, quote, indies that have a much, much higher production value. This feels like someone made it at a game jam, but was just pretty talented and a really good writer. Like, I was experiencing.
Oh, you're not giving Snoozy Kazoo enough credit.
I'm not. I think it's a really fun game, and I highly recommend it to everybody to check it out. But I mean, my stuttering, trying to go into different screens, and the way that the move, like, nothing about this game is clean, in my opinion. It is just not. It's not high quality kind of programming, but it is fun and it is adorable. And I'm so glad that you brought it up and you got us all to play it. And that's the one thing that, like, the listeners have responded on Twitter and different places and told us, like, well, we're checking this one. It's the one thing we've gotten people mention the most, is that they check this out because of your initial conversation about it, Kevin, and us, me and Brad included, and everybody's enjoyed it. So
oh, I'm glad.
Cool
Well, cool. And even if you don't have Xbox or Gamer Pass or PC or whatever, they just released it on mobile, so you can play Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion on your Android phone, or it's even in the iOS store, and you can play it for free. You can get started and play the game. In order to progress a little bit further into it, it's like $5.49, which is a really cheap. I think if you bought it for Xbox, isn't it more like a $20 game or $15 game? It's not $5, I don't think. I thought that was really impressive that it was released on mobile for $5.49 to unlock the entire thing. Maybe it's a $10 one, I don't know, because I have Game Pass. But I was impressed with how it played, because I actually downloaded it, started playing it on Android, and it runs really well. It felt intuitive. The controls, I'm not a touch screen, like, I don't play a lot of games on the phone that aren't puzzle type games that you're supposed to do touch screen. I hate the emulated analog sticks, but this game, for movement, you can put your thumb anywhere on the left side of your phone and control it, right? So it's not like you have to put it where it's uncomfortable and where they set it on the screen. No, you're actually just putting your thumb wherever it's comfortable for you, put it down, and it creates a little virtual thumbstick for you. And then with the attacks, the way that it works, instead of using your analog stick and pointing at the direction that you fight, there's just a button on the screen on the right side, and then you actually point wherever you're walking with the left analog stick, and then it just attacks that way. So the point is, I think they really optimized it well for mobile. They didn't try to just stick invisible controls exactly how they were with Xbox. So check it out, even if you only have a mobile device as opposed to Xbox. And I think it still would be worth it for how fun the game is and experiencing the story. And it plays really well that way.
Yeah, definitely a good way to play it, I would assume. Nice little bite-sized experience on the couch or on a long train ride or plane ride or something, if you don't have a Steam Deck, especially. Well, my other stuff to talk about, a couple things. I did try out Call of Duty Modern Warfare Spec Ops mode, which I talked about a little bit last week. After I finished the campaign, it made me believe that there was more story to be had in this Spec Ops mode that could be played with up to, I think, 4 other people, or you could just go into like private lobbies with just a couple of your friends, or you could play them solo. Didn't end up being quite what I was imagining. I see a game tell me more story, and I think I'm going through a story mission, and it's not that. It is definitely multiplayer lobbies that are just not straight up deathmatch or battle royale style fights. You know, you're still, some of them are co-op experiences where you're kind of fighting against a level as a group, which is what their kind of selling point was, but the story aspect of it is very light. It just is a setting given to it that is progressive in the story and a couple of objectives that you have to achieve instead of just killing the opponent. And so they were okay. We ran into problems really quick. The lobbies are basically dead. There's a very strong difficulty in trying to get a full 4-man team together and to stay together. We bounced around. We did some like private stuff. We got wiped, just the two of us trying by ourselves. And they were clearly not meant to be gone through solo or with two people. They were meant to be they weren't difficulty adjustable. So whatever. It was a fun little experiment and moved right along. Not anywhere near comparable to the campaign that I had such a blast with. So done with that one. Next time I get excited about playing a campaign will probably be Infinite Warfare. I'll go through that one. I was definitely glad to see that Modern Warfare, the sequel to this modern Warfare reboot. Goodness gracious. I wish they would just name them different things. But the new Modern Warfare 2 is coming in the fall of this year. And while I probably won't pay full price for it because I really just care about the campaign, I'll wait for the inevitable pretty quick sale. But I'm definitely looking forward to that sequel of that campaign. But sticking in the war genre, Top Gun Maverick, which I've seen twice now, has completely done a number on me, and I got this wild idea that I needed to play a game related to Top Gun. And I remember playing the old NES game back when I was a kid. It was not very good. It was hard. And I looked for something that was more modern. And there's actually a more recently made, I think mid-2010s, kind of a Top Gun type of game that got decent reviews, actually. But in my research, everything pointed towards the Ace Combat series for premium dogfighting. And the most recent game, Ace Combat 7 Skies Unknown, which came out in January 2019. And that series is made by Project Aces and Bandai Namco, I should say. Whoops. And they are just the top tier when it comes to providing this experience of being a fighter pilot. And I've never gotten into their games. I've always thought that I would be just bad at these games. But I went for it and bought a big edition of it with all of the DLC and all of the expansions that are out. And my son and I decided to give it a shot this past weekend, and we absolutely love it. It is so much fun. The missions are incredibly varied. This past weekend, I had introduced my son to both Iron Eagle, which we reviewed on my film podcast, and then Top Gun to get him ready for Top Gun Maverick. So we were in that mood, and just playing through these missions, we were doing much of the same type of ops that you would see in any of these movies, whether it was dogfighting in the air or fighting above the ocean or doing ground attack ops where you're flying through canyons, taking out, SAM sites and all of these things, taking out oil refineries from the enemy. It is incredible. And it has a really cool upgrade system. You earn like a money type of resource, and you can buy new jet types, and you can buy upgrades that affect all of your jets, and you can buy different or unlock different types of special weapons. So you may come equipped with, say, long range air-to-air missiles on a specific fighter jet, but you can unlock targeting ground bombs. So then that jet becomes more viable if you're flying a mission where you need to do ground attacks, but eventually go into the air and do dogfighting. And so, there's a lot of trial and error that goes into it, into figuring out what level of mobility you need, what kind of missiles you need to fight. There's a lot of drones. The story is ridiculous. It's absolutely completely like whatever. It's just so stupid, and I just try to skip through it as fast as I can get. I don't like it. It's terrible, and it just wastes my time. It's completely over the top. Like, it's not that surprising. I told you this came from Bandai Namco, who makes some like really kind of crazy over the top story JRPGs like the Tales series, and it's got that type of flavor in the storytelling. It's like two completely made up countries that are at war. I think one of them is called Europa and one of them is called Oceania or something, but they're so close to real world names, but they're just completely made up. And it's just an absolutely asinine story. Like, you don't care.
Is the dialogue like, someone set us up the bomb, all your base are belong to us?
Oh no, it is hyper serious and taking itself like it makes you think that it believes that it is incredibly dramatic and there's some amazing twists and turns, and your pilot does something in one of the missions that completely changes the story, and it's supposed to, I guess, get you invested in the characters. I don't care.
So they were going for it.
Yeah, they really were. But like, just let me fly, right? Just let me go fly. Anyway, there's like, I don't know, 16 to 20 missions, and they're pretty darn challenging. Some of them have like multiple parts that are 20 minutes long or 14 minutes long on the first part. And the game has a terrible checkpoint system, unfortunately. So if you don't complete the first part in 14 minutes, like say you fail or you I don't know, burn out and run into a mountain at 1 minute left of that part, then you start back at the beginning. And it can be really frustrating because it is a challenging experience. But just flying the planes, guys, it's so much fun. It is an experience that I have had a blast with. We were alternating, so much so that I played a little bit of multiplayer just to get some extra money. And I was able to unlock some planes. I actually got a win under my belt. My second match, I took down a couple of opponents. And I was literally like jumping up and down on my couch. And so awesome. I like that mode too, which is a big plus.
So do you play with a Thrustmaster flight stick, or were you playing with a regular controller? How did you play it?
So I was playing with a regular controller because I'm normal, and I thought that people that, I mean, I'm just saying, like, I thought people that, not that, I don't mean that in a negative way to people that have peripherals at all, but I think the majority of people just have a controller and just play it that way, and it works.
You're saying you're not a hardcore enthusiast, like you don't have a 3-screen flight setup and all that stuff. Yeah, I got it.
I thought that they cost hundreds and hundreds of dollars because like a really good GT wheel and pedal system can cost hundreds of dollars, and so that's what I assumed for like a flight stick. But I'll tell you this: I saw Top Gun again last night, and when I came home from it, that combined with the knowledge that both Ace Combat 7 has Top Gun DLC dropping this week. There are multiple jets, including one that I think is in the trailer that is not really a fighter jet, but is in the movie, and it's going to be awesome to fly it. So those are coming out for Ace Combat 7, but they also had a DLC that just launched today for Microsoft Flight Simulator, where you can get into an F-18, you can get an aircraft carrier to land it on. It looks phenomenal. And I was like, all right, you know what? I need to try these games, and I need to play them the way that theoretically could be the most immersive and most make me feel like a pilot. And I bought one, the Thrustmaster T-Flight HOTAS 4 is what it's called. And it was on sale and in stock, and it will be here on Friday. So I will have a report next week about my experience with it for sure. I am stoked beyond measure. I hope that I can execute okay with it. I did actually do some research to find out, am I really, really overbuying here for one experience and one game? But, Microsoft Flight Sim being a secondary option. And then I found out you can use it on things like Star Wars Rogue Squadron, Elite Dangerous, which is a kind of a space sim flying game. And then MechWarrior 5 was on the list. And I was like, okay, never had any interest in that. But if I can play it with this, I might have to check that out. And then Kerbal Space Program. I don't know if you guys have ever even heard of Kerbal Space or played it.
No.
Yeah. So it's an old indie game. And they're actually working on the sequel. It's supposed to be out, I think, this year. It got delayed. But you're these cute little, like, dudes, like an alien type species that looks very similar to the guys in Toy Story, the little green aliens in Toy Story. And your whole goal is you're trying to build and launch a rocket, and it is very sim. So it takes into account completely physics, weight, spacing, what you've got to put on different modules that you need, and you don't have enough fuel, then you shoot your rocket up and it launches and it gets up to the atmosphere and then it dies. Or if you don't get your launch angle and your velocity correct, then it'll get up there and it'll just kind of arc and come back down. My kids and I played a long time ago on PC quite a bit and had fun with it, so I'm gonna have to re-download it and check it out, and I'm gonna go through the whole gamut with this flight stick and see what I can do. But
I hope you're ready to run this podcast, Kevin, because I don't think we'll ever see Aaron again.
Yeah, he's going to be escaped into Top Gun zone.
There are bogeys to take down, guys. The world needs me. No, but it's really been a cool experience and just one of those random things that are so fun. Like, not anywhere in my playlist. I told you guys I am very methodical and I kind of know what I'm going to do, but this just came out of nowhere. And sometimes when a movie hits and things synergize, you got to ride the wave, right? You got to just go all in and you get so much satisfaction out of it. And that's where I'm at with this. So I'm excited. The other thing I did on a whim and had a funny story to tell you was about A Link to the Past. This came from our Tunic discussion and how similar it was. And it got me to thinking about how have I never played A Link to the Past? This is considered like maybe the greatest Zelda game of all time. I am a top-down Zelda fan first and foremost. Those are all of my favorite entries, well, other than Wind Waker. And I really have to experience this game. Well, it's on Nintendo Switch Online if you have the service. And so I fired it up and I started playing it and I was so excited and I was like, man, this is amazing. This feels great. And I don't know, I played for 2 hours, maybe 3 hours. And I even made Facebook and Twitter posts all about how I was terrible for never having played this game. And I started to wonder why I was able to predict everything that was happening. I was like, this is weird. I know where the village is, and man, I bet you if I go in here, there's a shopkeeper there, and this boss, it's gonna be this worm, and all I gotta do is hit him in the back. Oh wow, sure enough, it was that worm, and I think I know where this wand is, and there's something behind that waterfall, just like I thought. And so I paused and I Googled, and I was like, what is going on here? Maybe I'm getting it confused with A Link Between Worlds, which was a 3DS game I've played multiple times and absolutely adore. And it's set in the same world. So Link Between Worlds has the same village and general map layout, but different everything else, like once you're in the dungeons. Well, the reality of my research and what I came to discover is, no, I've played A Link to the Past. I've actually played and beaten it multiple times. And I know everything is going to happen. And I'm still knowing everything is going to happen. And now I'm in it, and I'm just going to keep going through it again because I have restarted it. But it's really sad that my memory is that bad that I couldn't recall off the top of my head the name of the game and that I'd played it. And I just felt so embarrassed by that. But it did kind of get a little bit of a spark for a goal. It goes back to that question we talked about a couple weeks ago about goal setting, that I love to have them. And so this is not something I am going to be trying to finish in a certain time frame, like a year or whatever. But I realize I really do want to complete all of the Legend of Zelda games. I love this series, and I have played a good majority of them, but there are definitely some big ones that I have missed. So I made myself a chart. I am tracking and checking off all the ones that I either own and or have access to. I've got it written down where I need to acquire them from. I'm actually going to go hunting at the local used retro game store down the street this weekend and see if I can find copies of Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks, the DS games, so that I can play those on my 3DS. The two 3DS little small games, Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages. Never played those, but they're only like $5 on the eShop, so I'll snag those. Skyward Sword HD, which I'm very nervous about because I'm not looking forward to the motion controls. and I just know that they're really awkward, but I want to go through all of these games. So I think it's on sale digitally right now through Walmart. So I think I'm going to snag it this weekend as well. And yeah, I mean, I'm just going to go ahead and finish up A Link to the Past and then slowly start checking these off. So my goal is at one time or eventually I want to have a ranking, right? I want to have in my GG app and my backlog, I want to have a list of a complete, what I feel is fair Zelda series ranking. And I just can't do that if I'm pulling from obviously memory 20 years ago when I couldn't even remember I played this game what was probably like 5 or 6 years ago, the most recent time. So anyway, that's my Zelda story. And I've been, loving going back through A Link to the Past and realized that it is probably my second favorite Zelda game, even though I didn't know the name of it.
That's a great game.
It sure is.
It is way better than Tunic. That's one thing it has really stuck out. I'm sorry, but
I won't argue with that.
The influences you really can tell when you're replaying this game. I mean, it holds up today, and you can see how it's been attempted to be emulated and improved upon. But this is just impeccable execution in every way. The way it hides its secrets, the way it sort of roadmaps you to give you an idea that maybe you could try a thing in a certain spot and then it works, but it doesn't tell you explicitly. There's just so many little design choices in this game that I think are what make it the complete classic and all-time great that it is. And there's just a level of detail in all of those things that games that try to mimic it have not quite been able to do. Like just being top down and cute little character with a sword and swinging it at things is not, with some puzzles and dungeons, doesn't make you a Zelda game. It's how they implement those elements. It's the way in which, the order in which you discover things and the way in which you're able to use things that make it all work together to become this incredibly cool, cohesive, like perfect experience. And it's been awesome going back through it. So there's that. Well, let's talk about some news before we get off of here. And we are not a PlayStation podcast, but you can blame this on Xbox for being boring and literally not having anything to talk about. But PlayStation is doing something big. So, of course, this is going to be dominating the news cycle right now. Their new PlayStation Plus lineup and new tiers are going into implementation. They have started with Asian markets, a slow roll up over different continents. And I think we are June the 12th, I want to say. Could be June the 13th, but it's one of those 2 days, the Americas. And so I want to go through a couple different topics. Progressively, maybe some not so bad, some maybe a little bit heated. But the first thing I wanted to touch on was just the games themselves and some of the things that they announced and put out that were going to be on there. One thing that's interesting is I was scrolling through this list just a little bit ago, Kevin, and one of the games that is on the original PS3 games list under third-party partners is Enslaved Odyssey to the West. So I'm about to have access to Enslaved Odyssey to the West. Yeah.
Look at that. Good.
But yeah, I mean, basically anytime you buy a game, it either goes on sale or turns up somewhere for
it's
free.
free.
2 weeks later.
Yeah,
it's great.
I've learned that. Yeah, it's amazing. So if anyone wants to play a game with a subscription service, just ask me to buy it. What do you want, Brad?
I want Elden Ring, please.
Elden Ring? Okay. I just bought it 2 nights ago.
Oh, great.
So it will be free on PS Plus soon.
So
okay,
watch
great.
Xbox
Thank you so
Bethesda
much.
Showcase at E3. They're going to announce Elden Ring is coming to Game Pass. Watch.
Right. I seriously, like I held off and I don't even know why I bought it because I have no time to play it, like especially that game. But I remember Aaron talking about it and it was kind of cool the way that you don't have a map and you just, as you explore, you find things. And I like the Souls games. And after playing Tunic, I felt like I could take on any game because that game was so hard. And so, yeah, I played it. I didn't mention it and, maybe I'll go into it in future weeks, but I enjoyed what I've seen so far. But yeah, I just decided on a whim. I'm like, okay, I'll buy it. And so, yeah, look for it for free soon.
Thanks, Kevin.
You're welcome.
That's awesome. Well, there are the 3 tiers of the PlayStation Plus, and it's going to get real confusing real quick for everybody involved because that's how these services just feel like they've got to do. But you have the first kind of level of it, which is your old school PS Plus, and it gives you access to this PS4 and PS5 game catalog. And if you guys have looked at this list, it is pretty phenomenal. If you are not someone who is in the ecosystem and has already had a PS5 since launch and has played every new game that comes out. I mean, we're talking, Brad's raising his hand. Is that you?
No, that's not the base level though, right? We don't get the games with the base level of PS Plus.
I thought we did.
I think that's the second level.
Oh,
But
is it the second level?
Yeah, and then the extra games are on the top tier.
Well, no,
I think the base level, the $60
extra
level
is normal. Extra is the
essential
first level.
Sorry, yeah, essential is the $60 one. Extra is the next level up, and then premium is everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got you. So then it is the second. That makes more sense. So it's the second level that gets you the PS4 and PS5 back catalog. And, it's got Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut. It's got God of War. I'm excited because it's got both Gravity Rush games, which I've never been able to play. So I'm excited to check those out. Horizon Zero Dawn, Sucker Punch's Infamous series is on here. Insomniacs, both Marvel's Spider-Man games are on here. All of The Last of Us, The Last of Us Remastered and The Last of Us Left Behind are on there. Not the newest one. The Uncharted games are all on there. Until Dawn. There's some Ubisoft stuff. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is on here. Batman Arkham Knight is on here. The Control Ultimate Edition, which we were joking about, how Kevin just bought it and then it showed up on this service is on there. Final Fantasy 15 Royal Edition, which I'm working through right now again for a second time, and absolutely one of my favorite games of all time is on there. Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy is on there. Red Dead Redemption 2 is on there. So it is, Hollow Knight is on there. So it's stacked. I mean, it is a bunch of games that I personally have already played for the most part, but I could see this having a big draw.
Two that I want to mention, Celeste and Dead Cells.
Yeah, absolutely. Two phenomenal indie games. And I'm glad that they included those, right? Outer Wilds is also on there. Not one that personally resonated with me, but I know many people consider it one of the best indies ever made. And I love that they have that mixture, right? Because that's what Game Pass has such a strong hold on, is getting some of the better indies on there as quickly as possible and giving people access to them. So I think it's a really good tier. They also now, and there's more supposedly it's going to be here. So they've said that there's going to be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of games, and that we're just kind of getting a snapshot at this point. There's also a classic games catalog, which comes with the highest tier, I believe. And this is going to include some games like Ape Escape, Hot Shots Golf, Siphon Filter, Tekken 2, and some Worms games. Those are original PlayStation and PSP. And then they have some classic game remasters on here. Dark Cloud 2, Jak 3, Jak 2, Jak and Daxter 1, all the Jak whole series, I guess. Wild Arms 3, really good RPG. And then they have some other newer stuff like Bioshock Remastered Collection, the Borderlands Collection, and Kingdom of Amalur's recent remaster version. Any of those make you think you want to jump out? Oh, I guess there's also PS3 games, I should mention. These are only via streaming.
Yeah, via streaming. Womp womp.
Right. I know that's an immediate kind of to me, because I just don't want to do that. I want to be able to download them. But they do have the rest of the Infamous series and the Ratchet and Clanks on there. And I don't know, not a lot in that group, honestly, jumps out at me, other than Enslaved Odyssey to the West, which I would like to try.
It's a shame that's streaming only. I wish you would have grabbed it. I mean, I hadn't played it to recommend it yet, but it was $3 on sale on a Steam sale, down from $20, and it just went back up to $20.
Yeah, well, I was never going to play it on Steam anyway, so totally understand. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think about the games they released so far in general? What's your vibe on this? Do you feel like their tiers are selling themselves as being worth the money?
I don't, but a lot of these things are things that I've already played or already have, so nothing really stands out as like, oh, this is a day one thing that I have to get. I'm kind of in the boat where I just want to watch it grow and see what it looks like in 6 months or a year, and then maybe give him my money for it, because I already have enough that I own that I haven't played. So all of this sitting there, paying them to have access to these games that I may or may not play, in the near future is not really that appealing to me. Going through the list of everything that you named is things I've already played or already have or tried at least, and just nothing's like, I have to have that. This is great. I think it's good for people who don't have a large library already, to just, if they're coming in with a brand new PS5, sure, go all out. You'll have all this access, especially if you didn't have access to these games in the past, PlayStation 1, 2, and 3. Get a little bit of, I can't say nostalgia because they haven't played them before, but get a little taste of what games used to be like on PlayStation. But yeah, for me personally, it's just see what it turns into and then decide.
Yeah, I think it's an incredible value. Like Brad said, if you hadn't played these games, I mean, I own a lot of these PlayStation Studio games already, so it's a bummer that I bought some of these and haven't beaten them, and I could have probably just held out, but I got to try them out. And that's the thing with me, is I like to try new games. But if you didn't have a PS4 for the whole life cycle, if you got a PS4 late, or like Brad said, you just got a PS5, you're getting an incredible value with $120 a year. These are games that still, if you went to GameStop and bought them used, you're going to spend $15 or $20 a game. So $120 for a whole year for all those, plus the PS1 and PS3 games. I think that it's amazing, and they've got me as a customer day one for sure. I just like the option to play them. Like, I know that I don't have enough time to play all the games that I have, like Brad said, but if I want to play Ape Escape and I can turn on my PS5 and play Ape Escape, that's something to me that's worth that. It's like having Netflix and Paramount Plus and all the streaming services I have. Yeah, I can't watch all the stuff they have, but when that one thing comes on the streaming service that I want to watch, I like having it. And it's the same here. If I want to play Ape Escape, or if they announce that, all the Resident Evil games, or, they decide to put Fear Effect on there or whatever, I want to be able to have it. And even if it saves me from going to put in the disc, right? Like if I have Red Dead 2 on disc and I can now just go on there and download it from PS Plus, like Aaron was saying with his Zelda situation earlier, like to me, I don't know, that's where I'm at, where I kind of like, if I already own one of these games on disc, I'll re-download it on PS Plus just so I can turn it on without putting the disc in.
It's also worth mentioning too that at the premium tier, that their PlayStation is going to give you trials of games too. I think the list here shows Uncharted Legacy of Thieves, Horizon Forbidden West, Cyberpunk, Tiny Tina's, and I imagine that's going to grow throughout the year too. So if you're kind of a frugal buyer or cautious buyer like I am, and you have this service, you're going to have the opportunity to try a game for, I think, a couple hours is the max, and then decide if you actually want to buy it. So that's another perk to the service as well.
Yeah, that's one of the great things they're doing, is kind of going to be making movie talk. What are they called? Trials,
demos,
game trials for demos for all of their kind of first party type games that are going on there new, and that's a good thing. I completely agree. The one thing I wondered if it might sway you, Brad, is that they are providing trophy support for some of these older games. So, for example, it is leaked already that Siphon Filter and Wild Arms 3 both have trophies now can be won, which obviously that didn't exist back in the day when they were being made. So is that something that could ever maybe push you over if it was a game you loved from your childhood?
Yeah, it depends on how many, probably. Siphon Filter's the big one everybody's talking about right now. I remember not very well. I mean, I don't know how to word it. I played it as a child, but I don't remember loving it. So I would have to go check it out and see what it looks like. And if a lot of these games sometimes like don't feel good now because we're spoiled with how games feel. So it's for me, I have to see how these all look, and then how they play. If they look good, if they play good, if they hit that nostalgia factor, then I mean, I'm very sure that at some point I'm going to subscribe to this. I just don't know how soon it's going to be.
The other kind of cool thing is that for some of the original PlayStation and PSP classic games, I don't know why just for them, but for them, they have said that there will be a user interface with a menu, basically that is like what I'm using on the Switch Online games right now, where you can save your game at any time or rewind if you want to start over. I know there's questions, and people have different various thoughts on that from a, completionist perspective, or I don't know, perfectionist perspective on gaming. But I mean, I use the save state right now on Legend of Zelda on A Link to the Past almost exclusively, because you can just stop where you're at in the middle of a dungeon and resume and go back. That I don't typically use the rewind feature, but if I needed to, in order to save myself from wasting an hour of progress, I would gladly do that. And I don't understand why anyone would be against such accessibility features. And even if I wanted to just rewind and beat a boss because I didn't beat him the first time, I mean, imagine how much easier that would be if it was just like, well, I had him down to one hit, but he got me. Okay, I'm going to go back a frame and move differently and click a button differently, and now I took him down. I'm a much bigger fan of saying you play the games the way you want to play them, and you get the experience you want to get with them, and that's okay. So I think that's a cool feature, and I hope that they expand it.
I get it. I'm of two minds there, though. I mean, for how busy we are and how much stuff we have going on, I totally get going back and playing those classics and using those features because, we don't have unlimited time to do that. But I can also see it being like, well, back in the day, you didn't have that. And if you really want to play it the way it was intended, it's challenging and you have to learn new moves and get better. And so playing it over is part of the original experience. So I see both sides of it, but I'm not going to give people crap for doing it, but I can see why someone maybe would want to have a more authentic experience. So but play however you want, really, like you said.
Yeah, choices are always good. The purists will argue that you should play it the way that it was intended, but like you said, with our time and just our life and how things, are just playing out every day, options are good. And if something is causing more grief than it should be and you want to get done with it, so be it. If you have the option to either do it the way that you choose or continue trying to overcome that. So I like it. They include that on a lot of the SNES remasters, like Aladdin and The Lion King. I got that on the Switch.
Oh,
geez. Such a nice feature. Yeah,
right. Exactly.
Those games are possible.
I wouldn't play them without that. Honestly, they're freaking so hard. In the not so happy with PlayStation side of the news, we also learned that when this service launched in Asia, the way that PlayStation was going to deal with people who had previously purchased prepaid cards in order to kind of get around the full cost price of upgrading to these new tiers, how they were going to handle that. And we talked about this on one of our previous shows. We won't rehash everything, but the short of it is that I used this for a couple of years. I was able to knock mine out to, I want to say 2024 in the summer. Kevin tried to jump in and do it as well, but it happened. He's just bad luck. I just realized how many times we talk about you having bad luck.
Mm-hmm. I try to tell you this off the show. I'm like, there's a little rain cloud that follows me around, man.
It's crazy. But Kevin bought some codes to do the same thing, to prepay some PS Plus time, which would then, according to Sony, they had said it would just strictly convert once these new tiers at the highest level, which made sense. It was kind of okay, cool. They're going to reward us for getting in on the ground floor, much like Xbox did with Game Pass. And Xbox even did it for $1. I think I paid $1 for the first 3 years of Game Pass. It was insane. Well, that's not what happened. Sony then took away the ability to redeem these prepaid cards so that you could not add time anymore, to the point where even if your normal subscription was about to expire, case in point, my own personal PS Plus is expiring in a few days. I bought a card for 1 month to just push it out 1 month and renew. They won't let me redeem it until the expiration happens because they found this loophole and they wanted to close it. They then put out a statement saying that whatever service you had in place, they would honor that and push it out to the furthest level. So, okay, they're closing the loophole. Sony's famously or notoriously anti-consumer, so not surprised, but at least those of us who were able to do it are going to get a little bit of a benefit. And even though it's super frustrating not to be able to redeem our cards that we've already paid money for, at least when this new service launches, Kevin will be able to redeem his card, I'll be able to redeem my card, and we'll be good to go. But now what has actually taken place is people have found that if you prepaid for, say, PS Plus, or I'm sorry, PS Now in this case, which is converting into the new tier of PS Plus. God, I hate this freaking naming conventions. What I did is I ended up saving myself half the cost of the service by buying it in advance because the cost is going to double once it goes live at the highest tier. So someone like me who logs in is being told that you now are charged the remaining amount all the way up to the length of the subscription you have on file in order to go in the moment. Like your sub does not become actually usable at all until you prepay the rest to get you up to the accurate, correct new price. So for me, that means I save myself, I think, $120. When I log in, if the same thing happens in the US that happened in Asia, they're going to hit me with a screen that says, pay us $120 right now, or we're not activating this thing that you already paid us $120 for, which is insane to me and frustrating to me, and it is incredibly anti-consumer. And I think that there are so many ways that they could deal with this. Like, even being anti-consumer, there's no way you shouldn't convert the money I've already spent into the equivalent of your new cost and just give me the year instead of 2 years, but to ask me to pay you more money in order to push it further out or whatever, like, is just, to me, crazy. And I cannot believe they're doing it, but apparently customer service reps have confirmed that this is the case. And because it's Sony, I have seen, screenshots of this, people being affected by this. Like, I have no reason to doubt this is what's going to happen. It makes sense because they are like this. They don't seem to care about their customer service and their customer base. They just want to pinch every penny and make every dime that they can. And yeah, I'm pretty upset about this. And I'm curious, am I off the rails? Please tell me if I'm overreacting to this, guys, or, are you guys in agreement with me?
I think that it's messed up. I agree with you. It's their fault for saying that if you already have a subscription, that it's going to convert. I mean, if other people went out and bought codes, or if they already had codes, there's nothing to say. I mean, actually, what makes it even worse for me, Aaron, I didn't buy the codes because I was trying to do this. I bought the codes completely unrelated when they were at a little bit of a discount just to extend my PS Plus. And I can't even extend my PS Plus until this conversion takes place. Even if I don't want PS Now, it literally tells me my code is invalid. So you're talking about codes that I paid $50 to $60 for per year of my money based on their terms when I bought the codes. And they're telling me I can't even use them. That's my money that I spent on our agreement that they said I can do this. So I think that's really messed up to not let me extend my PS Plus. I think it's messed up to not allow people to get the new tiers based on how they said they would already convert. And then I think it's messed up for them to go back on it and say, well, actually, you did this and it went out 2 years. So now you're going to have to pay the remainder, like you said, before you can use it. I think it's a horrible move. The optics are terrible. Every YouTuber that covers gaming is dogging on them, and it's not Xbox YouTube channels. I mean, it's anyone that covers the news, whether they love Sony or not. And I'm a Sony person. I would much rather, I think I've said it before on the show, if I have the choice for the same cost to buy something on Sony or Microsoft, I go Sony. I have in the past, and this is starting to really make me reconsider my allegiance, because I don't want to support a company that doesn't care about their customers. Like, if it's the same cost, I almost would rather give my money to Microsoft at this point, because, I was able to take advantage, like you did, of the Game Pass deal, and I got at least, maybe not 3 years, but I got 2 years, and they said it would convert that way, and they honored it, and that's how it went down. I mean, Sony, it's their fault if they left it open to do this, and once they closed it off, that's one thing, but to go back on it and then to retroactively screw over everybody that maybe, they tried to extend it 3 years, like you said, if you did it for 3 years and now your cost is triple, well, maybe you don't have the money to spend triple. And now, are they going to give you a refund? Are they going to say, take your card back to Target? Or are they going to say, well, you didn't buy it from there because they didn't exist anymore. They pulled them from shelves. Is Aniba going to give you a refund? No, they're not. So you're screwed. And if Sony holds your $60, $120, or $180 hostage, and you can't return your code and it's already redeemed anyway, like, that's so messed up. So I'm really curious to see how it plays out. I hope that isn't the case. I hope for the people in Asia, I hope they fix it. And I hope when it comes out here, it will already be fixed and they won't do that. But if they do that, it will really make me reconsider how much I like Sony. Like, they will lose a lot of money from me in the future if they do this.
Yeah, and I'm in the same boat. I think, admittedly, I haven't paid too close attention to it because I'm not invested into it like you guys are. With the extra time, I've never subscribed to PS Now, but from the get go, it's been evident that Sony has dropped the ball and all these missteps in setting this up and going back or saying one thing, then going back on it and saying another, and then going back on that and just changing things over and over again. It's very disheartening to see that taking place. I lost my train of thought there, but yeah, I don't know. Like, that's another thing that takes, that I think about when I want to subscribe to this is, the people that it's affecting now. And I really hope I think something happened in the past. I can't remember an exact instant or an example of it, but there was something that happened where Sony again dropped the ball on delivering something, and then everybody complained about it, and then Sony remedied it, but it's what they should have did the whole time. And I was wondering, as you were talking about it just now, Kevin, if this is one of those things where we'll put ourselves in the dirt for a little bit, then look like the hero by listening to the gamers, and it's
I'm wondering if
bad
this
faith,
is yeah, are they doing this? Are they creating problems to solve to look like the good guys? And if that's the case, I think that's really messed up because they really need to just do it right in the first place. And they've got a lot of loyal customers like myself and like Aaron who are PlayStation people, and I've bought the consoles. I've got my son and I both have PS5s. I've subscribed to PS Now for a long time already. Like I am a PS Now. I think since the beginning, I've been a subscriber. I've given them my money to their new service, even when it wasn't great and didn't have that much stuff. Like, I've spent a lot of money with Sony, and now they're not even letting me redeem my cards that I've paid good money for. Like, that's the thing that gets me again, is that I didn't buy them for the deal. I bought them. When sales pop up, if I can get a $60 gift card for $45, I do it. Like, I know I'm going to spend the money eventually. So I do that with PS Plus, PS Now, PlayStation gift cards. Last week I bought three $50 gift cards for $40 each, so I 30 free PlayStation dollars. But yeah, so like if you're gonna tell me no, you can't use the thing that you spent hundreds of dollars on, that's screwed up. So yeah, I really hope that they fix it, and I hope they don't create more of these problems to solve just to win people over.
It's just wild to me that Game Pass and services like that exist out there, and they've had a couple of years to learn, kind of do research and figure out how they're going to implement this. And I know they always say that their systems are different and it's not as easy as you think to do, which is maybe true, but it's just wild to me that all these examples exist out there on what to do and how to do it. And we talked about it last week or the week before, or maybe on the Discord, of Xbox has a limit of 3 years. They give you 3 years to stack up this stuff, and it prevents these kind of exploits from happening. And then for Sony to just say that, yeah, that's okay, we'll give you the longest duration, whichever one you have longest, we'll give you the premium tier until that date, and then realize, oh, we're going to lose a lot of money, we better ask the players for that money during this transition period. It's so gross. And I like to think, because at heart I am an optimist, and I hope that they'll clear it up, but like their history of things is kind of leading me to believe that this is going to be a pain for a lot of people for a while, and it doesn't need to be. It shouldn't be.
No, it shouldn't. I can't buy that it's ever been done on purpose, because I think that's insane. I think there's no way you win back as much favor as you're losing regardless because of it. The optics of it are just so bad. I mean, like, I think what you just said is perfect, Brad, because you had the example. You've watched someone do it right before you, and I get that you don't want to copy them 100%. You want to do your own thing, and that's fine. But Xbox didn't intend to have the $1 deal where people could get Game Pass for free. They acknowledged that that was not intentional. But what happened is, once it existed, they leaned into it, they embraced their community, and they said, you know what? We're going to do this. And like you said, they put the 3-year cap on it. They readjusted. They got so much goodwill. They got so many people into their service before it was really anything to speak of, before games were dropping like they are now every single couple weeks. And it created this massive growing user base of people who, when it came time to renew at the regular cost, were a whole lot more likely to put their $15 into it because they had felt like they got it for free, right? for so long
I did.
and such. Yeah, I did too.
I just renewed for another year on my and Ryan's account. So I just spent 2 years worth of Game Pass.
Yep.
I got a little bit of a discount, but it wasn't $1. I got it for like $10 instead of $15. I saved maybe 30%, but I just did 2 more years because I love it for one, but two, I'm like, yeah, I got a great deal. Like I'll keep paying for this.
It's to me, it's so baffling because of what you said. Like there's all the data is there. And it just feels like, how can you be a billion-dollar corporation like Sony and have this poor project management? Like, I do project management at a very low level at my business, and I could have told you needed to ask these questions about how things would go down before you decided to announce it. I mean, it's really not hard. This is not something that should have ever not been foreseen. And for them to act like, oh, wow, we had no idea that you guys would try to... What? In what part of history has consumers not wanted to pay less for the things they want, ever? Like, I don't know. It doesn't even make any logical sense to me.
Let alone a bunch of gamers, who
exactly.
are always looking for shortcuts, It's
right.
And who just did this with Game Pass? They literally, like you said, they have the template, they have the history of what went down, and then people said, "Oh, we can just do the Game Pass thing." Like the precedent is there, and then they even confirmed it, and so it's silly. It's just greed. It's pure greed. I think Sony, the executives, they ran the numbers, they crunched them and said, this is how many we already have. And if we just multiply that by 2 or 3, look how much money we get and how much more we'll make in our stock or whatever the case may be. And out of pure greed, instead of saying, wow, look at all these loyal customers, they said, look at all these dollar signs. And that is gross because they are thinking very short term, and if they make that money, I guarantee they will lose a lot more in the long term. And I can only speak for myself, but I account for me and my family who buy things with them, and I'll definitely be less likely to spend more money if they don't make it right.
Yeah, I think you're not alone, and it really ties into the service not having new day and date first party games, and you have this group of people like us who have played all these games, and so we may have been ready to give you our money based on goodwill. I'm like you, Kevin. Like, I'm not aching to play these games, but I already put $120 into your service because I wanted to support it, because I want to see it to grow, because I freaking love PlayStation, and I feel disrespected and I feel like attacked personally. I'm angry, like I'm mad because I feel like I'm going out of my way. I give you so much money. Like you said, I own a PS VR and a PS camera and a PS TV and all your little weird things that you've done. And I help buy into your ecosystem. And then you treat us like this. And it's infuriating. And I know that I'm not strong enough to walk away. And I know like you threatened it. And this is part of the problem is I'm that guy who so many consumers are, where I'm sitting here ranting and I'm very mad. But the reality is I'm going to be pissed off and push okay and give you another $120 if you force me to, because I want what I paid for already, and I'll probably just keep going with it. I'll just be mad about it because I don't want to move away from you, and I love your games, and I think that they almost are banking on that, and it's just disgusting. It's disgusting. It's predatory business crap, and they got to do.
Well,
better.
let's hope that this is all for nothing and it's going to be reversed. They're maybe waiting to hear how the response will be, and then they can come out and be the good guys. It's one of those things where they test the water, and not saying that they created a problem to fix, like you were saying, Aaron. You don't believe they did, but they may have said, well, maybe we'll do it. And then if it's that bad, we won't. But hey, if not,
maybe we'll get away with it.
Upside.
Yeah,
exactly.
They won't care.
Yeah, let's see how it goes. And again, we can maybe look back on this and go, whew, well, that was all for nothing. We got all worked up over nothing.
I hope so. Well, I think that's it for this episode of The Games We Love. As a reminder, it is still May. And so Kevin's contest is still on the table, and that is leave us a review on Apple Podcast. Give us some positive words, 5 stars, and you will be entered into a drawing for a copy of Cyberpunk 2077 on your platform of choice, I believe is what Kevin said. And
Xbox or PlayStation, those are the options I have for you.
Okay, gotcha. I guess
no PC or Epic Store keys or whatever else.
But yes, I'm glad you clarified that. So go leave us a review. If you want to leave it on something other than Apple's podcasts because you use a different kind of podcast player, please just quickly take a snapshot of that review and send it to us on the Twitter account or in the Discord or via email or some form of communication so that we know that you left it and we can enter you in. That'll be running through the end of May, and then we will draw and announce on our first episode after May that we record.
And if you found Turnip Boy because of my review, you owe it to us to leave a nice review
That's
for
a
the
great
show.
point.
Come on.
I think that's a
Right.
great point. Yep.
Everyone who has played Turnip Boy on my recommendation, come on, leave that quick review, hit that 5-star, just say a few nice words. Doesn't have to be about Brad. Say nice things about me and Aaron at least, and then we're good to go.
No, we love Bradley Sprinkles here too. Bradberry.
Bradberry.
Sprinkles.
Yeah,
Thank you.
please.
Yeah.
Disrespect. Put some respect on his name.
Oh, Bradberry. Oh, my goodness gracious. Well, everyone, thank you for listening because we do this podcast for you and we hope you enjoy. We will be back soon. Until then, go ahead and get out there and fall in love with a game.